All right, guys, we're going to look at tonight's homework. We're looking at relations and functions, looking to determine if it is a function or not in most cases. So remember that really with functions that we want to make sure that each input has only one output. So if we look at number 1, we're looking for a mapping diagram and then determine if it is a function. So we have our mapping diagram. We have our x's. We're going to have our y's. So our x's, we have 1, 3. I have 1 again. I'm not going to list it since I already have a 1. And then 5. Then our y's, 6, 2. I already have a 2, so I'm not going to list it. 8. Now, looking at our inputs, if I put in a 1, then I get a 6. Okay? If I put in a 3, then I get a 2. If I put in a 1, I get a 2. Okay? And then if I put in a 5, I get an 8. But because right here, this 1, I get a 6. If I put in a 1, I'm also getting a 2. That means that I have 1 input and I am getting 2 outputs. So, is it a function? No. And that's because 1 has 2 outputs. Number 2, make a mapping diagram for the table. Okay, label the domain and range. Remember domain, we're really talking x's. Range, we're talking y. So when we're looking here, this is our domain. And then here, this is our range. Okay, so mapping diagram. You're going to create it just like we did last time with your x's and your y's. Okay, these x's, this is your domain. Our y's, this is the range. Okay, so going through domain, you're going to fill that in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, then your range. 3, 1, 0. I already have a 3. I don't need it. 4, 5. Then you're going to start drawing your arrows. If you put in a 1, that gives you a 3. If you put in a 2, that gives you a 1. If you put in a 3, that gives you 0. If you put in a 4, that gives you a 3. If you put in 5, that gives you a 4. If you put in a 6, that gives you a 5. So we look at this mapping diagram. Every single input only has one output. So it didn't ask, or actually it didn't ask in the first part. But now looking at number 3, does the mapping diagram you drew show a function? And so you're going to answer either yes or no for if it is a function. Okay, looking at number 4, Mr. Morgan asked the students how many pets they have. Some of the responses are shown. So you need to complete the mapping diagram. It's already started. So we have our domain, which is right here with our x's. And then we have our range right here with our y's. So they took the x's and put them in right there. So that means the y's are going to need to go right there. Okay? Number 5, describe why the relation in question 4 is or is not a function. So you're going to either is or is not. Okay? So it is a function because or it is not a function because. Remember, you are looking for if each input, making sure it only has one output. Number 6, in question 4, suppose student 8 is added to the table and has 2 pets. Make a mapping diagram of this new situation. So you're going to have your mapping diagram, okay? But with this situation, what you're going to have, okay? So looking at number 6, we have student number 8 has 2 pets. So it's like the table has been expanded to where we have student number 8 has 2 pets. So now you're going to create your mapping diagram. You need to put all of your X's in, and you need to put all of your Y's. Remember, if it's a duplicate number in the Y's, like you'll have right here and right here, only list it one time. Finish your mapping diagram and then decide, is this relationship a function? So looking at the back side, 7, 8, and 9, determining if the relationships are a function. We want to know, does each input give one output? So when we look right here, we have a 1, that 1 only gives a 15. Okay, there's no other ones. 3 gives 20, 5 gives 15, 7 gives 20. So, does it represent a function? Yes. And that is because each input has one output. Okay? Looking at number 8, if you put in a 5, you get a 5. If you put in a 6, you get a 6. Or a 5. If you put in a 7, you get a 5. If you put in an 8, you get a 5. Keep in mind, let's look at a mapping diagram for number 8. If we put this into a mapping diagram, and we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and then our output is 5. If you put in a 5, you get one output. If you put in a 6, you get one output. If you put in a 7, one output. If you put in an 8, one output. So then you're going to answer the question, yes or no, and explain for if it is a function or not. Looking at number 9, you already have the mapping diagram, but be careful, look at your inputs, okay? Look right here, 12 has been listed twice. So go ahead and look at number 9 and decide if it is a function. Okay, looking at this section 2 with the vertical line test, this is determining a function of a graph. So if we look at number 1 and I draw vertical lines, I can draw a vertical line anywhere on this graph. And when it goes through, it is only touching the line in one place. Because the vertical line will only ever touch that in one place, is it a function? Yes. Number 1 is a function. Okay? So do the same thing to number 2 and number 3. Now, let's look at number 4. If we do the vertical line, okay, I'm not touching it anywhere yet. Then I go, and right here, it touched it in 2 places. Okay, so number 4, is it a function? No, it is not. Go ahead and finish up number 5 and number 6. Looking at the the third section, 7 through 9. Okay. You're going to go through and you're going to do the vertical line test. Okay, so just drawing vertical lines. If it only touches the line in one spot, it is a function. And so here on number 7, it only ever touches the line in one spot. So number 7 is yes, it is a function. Number 10, I'll get you started on number 10. But it says which letters of the alphabet given below would represent the graph of a function. So you're looking at the capital letters. So if we were looking at the letter A and we wanted to do the vertical line test, we want to see, is it a function? And I can see right here that touches in 1, 2 spots. So A, not a function. So looking at the next letter. B. Okay, let me change colors. Vertical line test. Right here, it touches in 1, 2, 3, 4 places. So B is not a function. So you're going to go through each letter and decide if it is a function. So going through and figuring out which letters it is.